having a pleasure interviewing the president of the Geneva College of Longevity Science, Mr. Dominik Thor. It is absolutely an honor to be here today with you and to interview you. I would love to ask you as many questions as possible, but I will begin by asking you to introduce yourself properly and tell us a little bit of background yourself and about the college.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ella, for having me. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to share, with the viewers of your channel a little bit about what longevity is all about. So first of all, so I think that is something that we should start with, because I think that there is still a terminology problem. So people, when they hear longevity, they think, okay, these are guys that are interested in living forever or very long. And the problem is actually that people typically see older people getting lots of diseases, right? And they're saying, well, that's not something for me. I don't want to live forever and have all these illnesses and whatever. So the idea is, about living longer in a healthier way. And this is what we are set out to do. So we are the very first academic institution that really focuses entirely on longevity science. Wow. And we set up earlier this year, so it's a very recent field of research, and this explains why.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We're very excited, and the feedback is really good. And we picked Geneva because, well, obviously we are a European-led team, so to speak, but we do have lecturers from all around the world, and also students from all around the world, because it's an online study course. We get together in person for specific events like this weekend, but it's an online study course because it mostly is for professionals in the field, doctors, healthcare professionals, but also managers and investors and lawyers even. And they are interested, in continuing education, but of course it has to be flexible. So we're happy to welcome them in Geneva, but if it has to be online, that's cool too.
Okay, on this topic then, continuing, it's an online course. How long is it?
So it's a one-year executive master's study program. The idea is that we really cover both the basics and then go into the different ways that you can influence your health span and lifespan. So really modulate the way how you age, not just gracefully but in a healthy manner. And there are of course many types of interventions that you can do. So obviously nutrition is a very big aspect.
Fundamental?
Absolutely is. It's like a pyramid, right?
Yeah.
So you start with lifestyle. What you eat, how you train, exercise is very important. Sleep, psychology plays a big part too.
Yes.
So there are tons of studies that show that if you have purpose in life, if you have some sort of social connection, could be family or close friends. Exactly, these are very important things. And of course, on top of that, you can do medical intervention, tons of stuff. And this is all what we teach about. And we also look at social factors and how to implement these things into our healthcare system and how we can afford that, both on a societal level, but also, of course, question how to finance it on an individual level, because these things, they don't come for free.
How many academic hours this 1 year long course involves?
Well, actually a couple of hundred, because we are an ECTS certified institute, meaning you have to ensure that there is a certain level of quality to the education. And typically what we require is for students, when they want to join us, that they have some prior academic experience. Also, they do have to have some link with longevity science. This is what we typically expect. So very often it's MDs, but it's definitely not a must to have a life science background. You can come from different fields too, because I think it's very important that we integrate many different stakeholders in this discussion.
I love it. So prerequisites are required, but to be able to get in. But you're trying to bring longevity knowledge and education into bigger population group. Am I right?
Absolutely. I think this is vital.
This is exactly what I do with my longevity dinners and me working in the media and trying to bring the hashtag longevity lifestyle into the masses, making it more accessible to people of different background, people from the media, people from the government or from the politics, from the finance world, to be able to have access to this information. So I got into longevity field from the finance world. My first career was in United Bank of Switzerland. And my thing is, yes, I got burned out. Yes, I changed the career, but you don't have to. You don't have to. If you're really good at your craft, at what you do, and you're curious about healthy lifestyle, which we all should be, and it's advancing every year, and you know it probably, as the more we know, the more we realize how much we don't know. You know how many people have already asked me about your program, and most of them actually from finance.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So, well, I have to say, I studied pharmacy and actually business science as well. So these two go together. And of course, if you work hard, then you ask yourselves, what things can I do to stay healthy? And that's really important, right? And I love what you're doing. I think bringing attention to this field is really important. And it has to be attention, from a broad audience, not just the experts, because we do have very clever people working in labs, etc. But if the findings are limited to these people, we have to make it accessible to everyone
Exactly.
at decent prices. So we have to think about it, and we have to involve people that are part, shaping the healthcare system. We need to bring more money in to develop these things. And I think education is important, because let's take the investor, for instance. Investing into early stage biotech companies is risky business. It's very hard to choose where to invest in, because you don't have any financial numbers to go by. You have to understand what these guys are working on, and it's typically complex stuff. So if you have a good understanding, then you can make a meaningful investment decision. So this is why I say I'm very happy to welcome people that don't have a medical background, although of course I'm happy to have great doctors. So it's important. We need education on many levels, just like you do. I think, everyday life hacks regarding as to nutrition, etc. These are important too.
And that's what the longevity dinners, for example, a lot of attendees are doctors. And my goal is to make sure that all of the providers know about this lifestyle, which is much easier to do than they think. But very often, the mainstream doctors don't walk their talk. That's why they're not even interested, and they think it is so far-fetched out there. And education is important. So let's go back to college of longevity science. So once someone graduates, what is this, a master's in longevity science? What's the degree?
The degree is an executive master's degree. This executive master's gives us some sort of flexibility in our curriculum, because if you do a master's, obviously it has to take much longer. You cannot do it in just a few weeks. I think in order to really understand both the basics and the different types of intervention, it takes some time. But at the same time, of course, you have people that are already working. So they have to find some, ideal combination of learning new stuff, but at the same time being able to continue with their daily work and then apply it in some reasonable time span. So I think 1 year is a time commitment, but it's also something where you see a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's our job to make it as accessible and easy as possible. So it's a complex topic, but I think you can teach it in a manner that people still understand and get to learn it quickly.
Is enrollment open now?
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
where can people go to learn more?
Well, hopefully they go to gcls.study. This is our webpage, so they find all the information there. So check it out. There is a form for you to apply.
Geneva College of Longevity Science,
GCLS.study, exactly.
Okay, and you mentioned prerequisites. Do you have any specifics that are required? Can a health coach get a master's degree in longevity science, or nutritionist, or dietitian, or it has to be someone with a qualified background of education?
Well, actually, we have all these three already enrolled as students. So the answer is yes, they definitely can.
Wow.
And I think they should.
I would do that if I would be you, because I get a lot of questions. Like, I inspire a lot of people who, which school did you go to? What do you do? And I did everything. I'm a health coach, I'm a nutritionist, and I'm a clinical dietitian. And very often I tell people, like, if you don't want to work in a hospital, you don't need to be a clinical dietitian. I wouldn't say wasted, but I've invested a lot of years into my clinical degree and doing my medical residency. I don't work in hospitals. I don't work in clinical settings. I work in prevention. So I feel like this route, which up until this year has not existed, that's why I'm so excited to interview Mr. Thor for you guys and to learn more. Anything else that people need to know?
Well, I think you mentioned that it combines longevity, so many disciplines. So I think your personal journey, learning about so different aspects about it, I think that resembles all those people that are already involved in this field. But at the same time, of course, to make it more accessible, you have to streamline that process. You cannot have everybody, looking through the literature, looking into the new studies, etc. You need some institute that really condenses all that knowledge and ensures that what you learn is really the most relevant aspects, and it all being based, on sort of a academic quality. So you can rely on this being really good, and because that's a problem, right? There are tons of people out there telling you what's healthy, what you should be doing in terms of longevity, and I think some of that advice is really good, but some of it isn't. And it's, I think, difficult for people to differentiate. And this is
Should I dare him to get into specifics?
no, please. I don't
This
want
is
to
gonna get
mention any
scandalous.
names. No, I don't want to mention any
No
names.
problem, yeah.
But of course, yeah, I mean, different people have different access to it. But I think it's important that you highlight, what works and also potential risk factors, right? So you can try out everything yourself, but the question is whether it's a good idea or not.
Exactly. Okay. All right. So that's on the college. Anything you want to highlight about the college? Any specifics? How is it different from every other school out there? How is it compared to other schools? And why people should be getting their executive masters from your college?
Well, I think it's different because we're the only ones doing it, right? So as of now, or up until we started, there were some courses for MDs, as sort of continuing education,
Yeah.
which I think is excellent.
Yeah.
But there wasn't anything on an academic level. And the reason for that is quite simple. Established universities, they do have sort of a job description, right? They have a mandate. And if you talk to a medical university, and I did research with people from Stanford, the Mayo Clinic, and some of the leading European clinics, they said, well, we're interested in longevity science, but only as far as it, relates to medicine as we understand it now, because that's our job. So other things that are very important, well, they are not part of their curriculum, so they cannot cover it in detail. So you have to set up a new school because it's an interdisciplinary new field of science.
Wow.
And therefore, I think this is quite special. And hopefully there was going to be new schools being set up internationally. I'm quite certain there will be, but right now there is just one, and we are very proud that we are this school.
Wow. It is quite unique. That's why I was so eager to interview you. Just to summarize what we've learned, it's 200 hours, 1 year long program, and it's an executive. What does it mean, executive master's program?
Well, the typical master's program typically is, right, following up to a bachelor's degree. So with an executive master's degree, this is typically an offer that you extend to professionals in the field, and they don't necessarily have to have that bachelor. So it gives you more flexibility, in terms of the institution that offers the education. And I think that can be helpful.
Got it. Okay, and then when it comes to the program, you mentioned how everyone, like, what are some of the backgrounds that you are welcoming? You mentioned medical field. Any other backgrounds that you're welcoming into your program, or maybe not, if you want to mention those?
Oh, well, I'm a big advocate for getting as many stakeholders on board as possible. So for me, I would say the easiest is to attract the medical doctors, because they have a strong interest in the field, and
they're in charge of providing education to the patients.
True, yeah. So I think also it's their task to continue learning. This is something that's part of the medical profession. You have to, keep in touch with what's happening out there. And at the same time, I think it's really important to get investors educated, because everything that happens in the field, or most of it, is actually privately funded. So we need more funds to get these things to the patients more quickly. And then you have the regulatory experts, lawyers essentially, that are interested in the field. We have those as students as well. And then you have those people that work as policymakers or, healthcare officials. So these are also some people that we want to, in some way engage, and we're very happy if we win them as students.
Yeah.
So we're really open. I wouldn't say to everybody, because they have to be really earnest about what they're doing, and they have to have some link to the field. So typically our students, they are not 18-year-olds starting out, so they study biology, medicine, or whatever. But other than that, I think they should reach out, and I think we can find, some guidance for them.
And the enrollment is currently open?
It definitely is. So the beauty about it, that it's really happening very flexible and online. So people can start anytime they want, and they continue at their own pace. So they can do one course after the other, or 5 of them at once. The structure is basically 10 courses, and at the end you do a master's thesis, and you get somebody, you know, from the faculty to help you along as a mentor. And there is also again a lot of flexibility as to what the thesis entails, because what we already did is that we work with companies, people working in these companies, studying with us, creating a sort of scientific project around that, something that really helps them in their profession. So the idea is not to have giving people the impression that they have to sit in a library all day and write something nobody reads. It should be relevant to what they are doing.
So I'm someone who has joined the faculty as a member, and I will be teaching a lecture on longevity nutrition. I'm very excited. Thank you for the opportunity. But what I'm really excited is about getting the executive masters in longevity science and learning from other incredible contributors and faculty members that I've seen the list. That's like out of this world. Everyone is there. And so, yeah. What do you recommend I do?
Well, you definitely should. So we actually do have several faculty members that study with us, because just like you, they say, oh, wow, I'm a real expert in this one aspect. But of course, as we know, there's so many different factors that are important for longevity, and it's quite hard to know all about them yourself without, you know, the help of other experts guiding you along. And this is what we are trying to do. We invite really leaders in their respective fields, and they come from various backgrounds. You have some, I would say, old professor, you know, lab rats talking about what they're doing in the field. Then you have very clever minds from the business world that tell about how they apply these findings. So let me give you one example, one quick one. You know about epigenetics, obviously, and I think your viewers will too, how that is important for us to understand how we can activate our genes, right? And how the lifestyle choices that we make, how they influence our health. Essentially, this is epigenetics. And we have a professor talking about it, you know, more from a scientific perspective, giving you a good understanding. And then you have somebody from a company saying, oh, this is the way I used them to build an aging clock. And then you have a doctor explaining about how they use aging clocks in order, you know, to put together interventional programs for their patients. So one topic, but three different experts highlighting it from different perspectives.
Love it.
So I think that's really, really nice.
That's exactly how I describe complex subjects. It's like looking at an elephant from 4 different sides, right? Imagine one's looking from the front and the other one's looking from the back, and they're both looking at an elephant, but they have different views, right? So the wisdom, it comes from being able to see 360, exactly what you just described. And yeah, definitely I am eager to sign up, like everyone else should, I feel like. Thank you so much for today's interview. This was quite interesting. And you mentioned the website before. It's GCLS
Study.
Yeah. And leaves your questions under this video, and I'll make sure he answers them. Thank you so much for this interview. It's quite, yeah, everything I wanted to know. Is there anything you wanted to share? Anything else?
I'm excited for today's longevity dinner with you and your guests. So I think there will be several speakers from our conference that starts tomorrow. Yes. So I think that will be a wonderful opportunity to unwind before, you know, the real work begins.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here today. Goodbye, everyone.